Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I pulled into the driveway and saw movers carrying my daughter's bed through the front door, butterfly sheets still on it. I just sat in my truck for 6 long seconds, trying to get my brain to catch up to my eyes. That was Sadie's bed. Her bed. And those sheets. She picked those out herself. I remember the damn argument in the store over butterflies versus stars. Marilyn, my mother-in-law, stood on the porch with one hand on her hip, the other pointing like a drill sergeant. The diamond on her finger caught the light like she was leading a parade, not a takedown. She saw me and gave this satisfied little smile like she was proud of the timing. And that's when I realized she planned this. Every Friday after lunch, I go to the cemetery. I bring fresh flowers and I walk the full loop. It's my time with Sadie. She knew that. There were daisies still sitting on the passenger seat when she turned toward me and said, "Perfect. We're making progress. Derek's baby will need this room by January 28th. Better to start fresh before Thanksgiving." I don't even remember opening the truck door. My hands were shaking. I walked up to the guy with the bed, big dude, tattoo down one arm, and told him to set it down gently, not toss it like junk. "Sir, we're just following the lady's orders," he said. And that told me all I needed to know about how Marilyn introduced herself. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. And let's continue. I looked straight at Marilyn. "Where's Alicia?" "At work," she said, like I was asking something dumb. "Someone has to handle real life while you're off at that graveyard." She walked inside and waved toward a stack of drawings taped to the wall. Sadie's art. "That's all kid clutter," she said to the movers. "The purple nonsense goes in the donate box." Heat crawled up my neck. I hadn't felt that specific kind of fury since I was 17, and my coach lit me up in front of the whole team. "Don't touch the drawings," I told them. The shorter mover hesitated. The taller guy looked at Marilyn like he was waiting for backup. She didn't say anything, just gave a tight-lipped nod like she was still in charge. I picked up the daisies and walked them inside. I hadn't left them at the cemetery like I was supposed to, and now I couldn't. So I put them on Sadie's dresser, because it was still her dresser, in her room, in my house. Marilyn started ticking off what was dated, the mobile Sadie made in art therapy, the photo string, the little lamp covered in those glitter sticker stars she was obsessed with for a year and a half. I glanced up at the ceiling corner, at the little black camera Sadie asked me to install when she got scared about break-ins during her treatments. Then I looked back at Marilyn and thought, all right, if we're doing this, we're doing it on tape. I stepped between Marilyn and the taller mover, locked eyes with him and said, "Nothing else leaves this room until I say so." Not a single box. He looked at her, then at me, then back at her. His arms dropped to his sides, and he nodded once. Good. He got it. Marilyn crossed her arms like she was dealing with a toddler throwing a tantrum. "Wesley, a man needs living children and a clean slate. Men ought to move on faster." "It's healthier," she said, like she was reading it off some Facebook grief meme. I didn't blink. Sadie's room isn't a problem to solve. It's not a mess that needs clearing, and I'll be damned if a nursery for your golden boy's maybe baby is going in my house. I turned to the movers. "Put everything back. One piece at a time, just like it was." She huffed like I was being unreasonable. "The family name has to continue," she said, like that was supposed to mean something. Then she reached for Chestnut, Sadie's stuffed bear, the one she held through every night with a nosebleed or a fever, or just because she needed something solid when everything felt like it was slipping. Marilyn grabbed that bear like it was a Goodwill leftover. I stepped forward, took it out of her hands, not yanked, not rough, just firm, and held it like it still had weight. "Back off," I said. "This isn't your space." The taller mover shifted awkwardly and scratched the back of his neck. I caught his eye. "Give me 10 minutes, I said. "Don't touch another thing." He nodded again. He knew. This wasn't just a job anymore. Marilyn gave this big, exaggerated look around the room like she was appraising a teardown. "This home is the Harrigan home," she said, dragging Alicia's maiden name like it gave her jurisdiction. I pulled out my phone, opened the county property app, and shoved the screen in her face. "See that?" I said. "My name, not yours. My grandmother left me this place when I was 23. Alicia moved in after we got married. Nothing's changed since. You didn't buy one nail in this house. You don't make decisions here." She sniffed and turned away, dismissive, like she couldn't hear me. Her hand waved toward 2 boxes by the dresser. One labeled give, one dump. Something yellow was sticking out from under the dump flap. A receipt. I stepped closer and pulled it free. Moving company invoice. Highlighted at the top were the first 4 digits of the company card I use for my electrical business, the one I keep just for payroll and materials. Right there in black ink, $1,482. Service fee tacked on the bottom like salt in the wound. She booked them on my business card, without asking. During work hours. On a Friday, I always go to the cemetery. That wasn't an accident. That was calculated. I snapped a photo of the invoice and emailed it to myself, right then. Subject line: unauthorized charge by Marilyn, movers. Then I texted Alicia. "Your mom is here with movers, using my card, clearing Sadie's room. Call me now." Marilyn kept moving, like nothing was happening. She was pointing at where the bookshelf used to be when she said it, the line that lit everything up inside me like a bad fuse. Derek's baby will be the first real grandchild in this branch. Everything went still. My shoulders, my spine, even my breath. It felt like the power had just gone out in my body. I turned to her and said, "Did Derek mention his vasectomy when he announced this miracle child of his?" She blinked, fast and hard, like I'd hit her with a camera flash. "That's an obscene thing to bring up," she said, voice brittle. Then, just like that, she switched gears back to whatever she was saying about painter's tape, like the bomb hadn't just gone off. 5 years ago, I said. Fishing weekend that wasn't fishing. Couch and ice pack. I drove him to the follow-up. He signed the form with my pen. She spun toward me, voice rising. "You need to be a man and stop clinging to these memorials." I didn't move, just stared straight at her, with the ceiling camera in my peripheral vision. "Everything you're saying right now is being recorded," I said. 6 cameras, cloud backup, audio included. Sadie got scared of break-ins when she was sick. I promised her I'd make the house safe. The color dropped out of her face for the first time all day. "You wouldn't," she said. "I wouldn't need to," I said. "It's automatic." I turned to the movers. "Start putting things back. Or I call the police. Unlawful entry. Fraud on a company card. We clear?" The taller mover cleared his throat and stepped back toward the bookshelf. "We'll put it back, sir." Marilyn jumped in, voice too loud, too fast. "I have authority by family. This is a family matter." I pointed at the side gate. "See that?" I said. "No trespassing sign's been there since March. That's the kind of authority that holds up. You crossed the line, I backed out to the porch, needed to breathe something that wasn't drywall dust and control freak energy, and I called Alicia. She picked up fast. Second ring, but her voice was clipped and low. "I'm with a customer, babe." "What's going on?" "You need to step outside," I said. "Right now. Your mother's in our house dismantling Sadie's room." There was a pause, and then a rustle, like she'd walked into the break room or ducked behind the salon. "What? What do you mean?" "I never... Wes, I didn't give her permission. Last thing we even talked about was maybe moving Sadie's nightlight to the hallway." "That's it." "Yeah," I said. "That tells me exactly where your head's been." I told her about the movers, the boxes, the give and dump labels. I told her about the invoice and the charge on my work card. Then I gave her Marilyn's little announcement. January 28th, a fresh start for Derek's baby. Alicia's voice cracked a little. "I don't even know Hannah's due date." Mom probably got it from Derek, or she just made something up to sound like she had authority. "She talks like a landlord," I said. You need to come home. I'll handle the house until you get here, but this isn't waiting until after work. I'll meet you in an hour. I hung up before Marilyn could pull one of her theatrical moves and pretend she was calmly mediating the whole situation. She loves to jump into phone calls, like she's a neutral voice of reason, right after she's lit the place on fire. Back inside, I stood in the middle of the room, clapped my hands once, and gave the movers a voice I usually reserve for my own crew. We reversed this. Drawers back in, shelves back where they were, artwork rehung. You broke something? You tell me now. I'll take pictures of every step. No surprises. Understood? Yes, sir, the taller one said. The shorter guy was already turning toward the art bin. Marilyn took 2 fast steps toward the bookshelf and tried to block the taller mover. Don't touch that. Alicia said she wanted. I held my phone up again. Screen still open on the county records app. Do you want me to call a patrol car? They'll explain who owns the house. I'm done arguing. She looked at me, mouth tight, eyes scanning for a crack to wedge into. Alicia wants a fresh start. Then Alicia can say that to me herself, I said. Not you. Not like this? She didn't respond right away, so I made it official. For the record and for the camera, any further handling of Sadie's belongings without both homeowners present will be treated as vandalism. And for the second time, since I know audio picks up better when it's repeated, the moving crew was booked using my business card without consent. Wesley, you're being unstable, she said, sharp and cold, like a diagnosis. That's rich, coming from a woman who ordered strangers to rip apart a dead child's room while her father was at the cemetery with daisies on the seat beside him. I didn't give her that speech. I didn't say a thing. I just kept my hands open and at my sides like I'd been pulled over. Calm, steady, visible. Because I knew how this kind of thing can look when it gets spun around later. The movers both kept glancing at the camera in the corner. They weren't stupid. They'd seen this kind of mess before. Maybe not exactly like this, but close enough to recognize when it's safer to side with the guy holding the deed. The shorter one started putting Sadie's drawings back up on the mantel, one by one, gentle and slow, like he was putting eggs back in a carton. He looked like he wished he'd taken a different job this morning. Marilyn tried again, softer this time. Wesley, this isn't about control. This is about moving forward. The energy in this house is stuck. I'm trying to help you both process. Don't, I said. Don't spin this like it's therapy. You didn't ask. You didn't clear it. You broke into our lives and started redecorating grief like it was a guest room. That's not helping. She turned her head and walked toward the window. Gave one of those long, dramatic exhales like she was the victim here. The taller mover, guy had a name patch that said art, walked past me with one of Sadie's butterfly pillows and said under his breath, "This belongs in here, not a box." Exactly, I said. Thanks for seeing that. I checked the dresser drawers. One had already been emptied. I pointed at it. Who cleared this one? The shorter guy raised his hand. I was told to sort it, he said. Didn't throw anything yet. Put it all back. Same order. He nodded and started picking up the baggie of hair ties and the worn crayons Sadie liked to keep close, even though they were too small to use anymore. Marilyn hovered like she wanted to keep interfering, but now she didn't have the confidence. The room was turning on her, inch by inch. I scrolled down to Derek's name and hit call. Put him on speaker. Hey, he said, dragging the word like he knew something was coming. Man to man, I said. Did you get a reversal? A reversal of what? He laughed, that fake kind of laugh that people do when they're trying to sound cool but their chest is tight. The clinic off the interstate, I said. Ugly beige chairs, that crusty sports center loop on the TV. I sat in the car while you went in. Then I took you to Dairy Queen after because you looked like you lost a bet. That's not your business anymore, he snapped. Bringing that up is sick. In the background, Marilyn's voice floated in from the living room. Don't be rude, Derek. Like she was standing over his shoulder with cue cards. I leaned against the wall and kept my voice level. Hannah says she's due late January. That would have been 9 months after your office happy hour in April. Remember that? Alicia picked you up because you were too drunk to drive. You passed out in the car. Watch your mouth in front of my mother, Derek said, and there it was. That told me everything. Don't worry, I said. She's already said more on camera than you'd ever dare to. I hung up and texted Alicia a link to the camera feed. No need to explain what she was about to see. I just wrote, watch the last 14 minutes. Listen at 7:19 when she says, first real grandchild. From the living room, Marilyn raised her voice like she was addressing a courtroom. You're destroying this family over a child's bedroom. That's not grief. That's ego. I walked back in and stood right in the center of the room. Family is what you do, not what you post in a group chat at Christmas. How many times did you visit Sadie that last month? I'll help. I can count it on one hand and still have fingers left. Don't weaponize grief, she said, shifting in her seat, but not looking away. You did that, I said, stepping closer, the second you scheduled a moving crew to turn her room into a crib showroom. You crossed a line and set it on fire. The taller mover, Art, walked over with something in both hands, Sadie's little blue jewelry box. It had her name and stickers across the top and 3 of her smooth rocks inside. He held it like it was a bird that might startle. She had this in the corner drawer, he said. Didn't want to leave it in a box. I took it gently. Thank you. He gave me a quick nod and walked off, back to the shelf. I sat on the edge of the coffee table and pulled up my banking app. Called the bank right there in front of her. Hi, I need to report an unauthorized business charge, I said when the rep picked up. $1,482 even. Moving company. It was booked under my company card by a third party. Yes, I'd like to freeze the card immediately and have a new one sent. I made sure to say it loud enough. It was booked by my mother-in-law, Marilyn Cartwright. Let the phone rep catch that for the audio file. Next, I called the moving company. Got bounced to dispatch. My name's Wesley Ballard. There's an open job under my name and company account. I need that job closed out and reversed to the card on file for the woman who booked it. Her name is Marilyn Cartwright. I have camera footage and the invoice. The woman on the other end didn't argue. Sir, we can reverse it today. Perfect, I said. Do that. Marilyn tried a new tone, patronizing, with a twist of fake disappointment. You're really going to nickel and dime this? Over a charge you'll write off? You're petty about money, I turned and looked her square in the face. I'm careful with money because I have to be. I stood, stepped toward her, still holding Sadie's jewelry box. Ask me how many nights I slept on a hospital recliner instead of taking jobs. Ask me what I paid for oxygen machine rentals when insurance didn't cover the model she needed. Ask me how many days I lost income just sitting by her bed because she was scared to be alone. She didn't ask. She just sat there with that crooked little smirk, the one she uses when she's pretending not to be cornered. Alicia came through the front door still wearing her black salon smock, her hair twisted up with a plastic clip, and I could already see the shine in her eyes. She didn't stop to speak, didn't even glance at me. She went straight toward Sadie's room and put both hands on the doorframe like she had to brace the house with her body. Her eyes went straight to the boxes. Give, dump. The dresser half emptied, the mobile missing from the corner. Then she saw her mother calmly perched on the couch like a goddamn wedding planner. Mom, she said, and her voice cracked halfway through the word. No. It wasn't loud, but I felt it in my chest. That tone. I'd only heard it twice. Once when the doctor told us Sadie's white cell count wouldn't recover. The other when the nurse walked us down the hallway for the last time. Marilyn stood like this was her big reveal. Honey, I knew you couldn't. That's why I came. Alicia stepped back. Not a full step, just enough to make it clear the hug wasn't welcome. Her voice came steadier this time. Did I ask you to do this? Marilyn gave this little headshake, like she was dealing with a stubborn child. Of course not, sweetheart. I knew it would be too painful. That's why I made the decisions for you. The taller mover had paused in the middle of reassembling the bookshelf. Alicia turned toward him. Please put the dresser back where it was, she said. Exactly where it was. It was 2 inches off center on purpose. Sadie liked it, crooked. Yes, ma'am, he said, and his partner jumped to it like a building inspector had just walked in with a clipboard. Then the front door opened again, and in came Leon, Alicia's dad, Marilyn's husband, though most people wouldn't guess it by how separate they kept things. He shuffled in slow, a paper bag in one hand, and set his old felt hat gently on the banister. He didn't say a word, not at first, which from Leon means plenty. That's how you know he's not on her side. Alicia turned and looked at me with this tight, pointed question in her eyes. Do I even have to ask? I nodded once toward the ceiling camera. She already had her phone out. She pulled up the live feed, scrubbed backward, and turned the volume up. She didn't blink as she watched. When she got to the part, that line, the one where Marilyn called Derek's kid the first real grandchild, Alicia just froze, covered her mouth like she might be sick. Then she lowered her hand and looked straight at Marilyn. Say you didn't mean that, she said. Marilyn didn't flinch. She walked forward slow and calm and launched into her script. It's not about Sadie, honey. It's about biology. It's about the family tree. You know how heritage works. Derek's child. Leon cut in, voice like gravel. Marilyn, you need to sit down. He didn't say it soft. He didn't say it like a suggestion. Alicia turned to me, and I told her the rest. The card charge, the invoice, the due date Marilyn had apparently decided on without consulting anyone. The fact that I'd already called the bank and the movers and shut it all down. Alicia didn't ask follow-ups. She just nodded through it like she was listening to a customer tell her what kind of layers they wanted in their haircut. Neat, quiet, focused. Marilyn circled back around like she was pitching a renovation project. This house needs a fresh start. You can't live in the past forever. It's not healthy. Wesley's turned this place into a mausoleum. That's when Alicia snapped, voice sharp and sudden. I breathe in here just fine. I can't breathe around you right now. The air in the room shifted, like an oxygen tank cracked open. Marilyn opened her mouth like she was about to argue again, but I didn't wait. You need to leave, I said, keeping my voice level. You don't get to stay and wait for Derek. This isn't a summit, no committee. She scoffed. I'll wait for the family to gather. We should all make a decision together. Leon stepped forward, slow but steady. Wes, I'll walk her out. Marilyn spun toward him. Leon! She said it like he'd just switched jerseys in the middle of a playoff. He didn't even blink, just reached for his hat. Before she walked out, she tried one more shot, like she couldn't help herself. A man needs a son of his own, she said, smug like she was ending the conversation with some final truth. I stepped toward the doorway, still holding Sadie's blue jewelry box. A man needs to stand by his daughter, I said. That's what I did. She looked away first. Leon walked her to the door without another word, and Alicia just stood there, one hand on Sadie's bedpost, watching the whole thing like she was trying to figure out how we'd even gotten here. When the door finally shut behind them, I heard Alicia let out this breath she'd clearly been holding since she walked in. Not a sob, not a yell, just a long, tired breath that sounded like release. I set the jewelry box down on the dresser, crooked it 2 inches to the left, and stood beside her. I don't know what to do next, she said quietly. I looked at the room, at the lamp, the half-emptied shelf, the drawings that were still halfway in a box. We put it back, I said, piece by piece. We start with what we know belongs. The front door had barely clicked shut behind Leon and Marilyn before Alicia and I started moving again. Not talking, not planning, just doing. Like we both knew what needed fixing before our brains could catch up. She started with the bookshelf, restacking the picture books Sadie used to call her sleepy stories, all the covers facing forward because she liked to pick by color. I grabbed the bin of markers from the floor, opened the lid, and began putting them back in the exact order Sadie had them. Red to purple, then black and brown on the side like she always did. The butterfly mobile had been taken down and coiled, the string untied. I climbed up on Sadie's old step stool and rehung it from the tiny hook in the ceiling corner by the window. It spun just a little once it was back in place, catching the breeze through the cracked window. Alicia reached behind her and set Chestnut, the old stuffed bear, against the pillows, in the same crooked lean Sadie always left him in. We didn't speak. We just moved around the room like people patching up something that didn't want to be touched. Not a shrine, not a museum, just a space that still belonged to her. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Text from Derek. Mom says you're flipping out. Chill. Nursery can go anywhere. Relax. I stared at it a second, then typed back, "Call me." He did. I didn't wait for pleasantries. "Let's talk straight. Did you or didn't you get a reversal?" "Don't be weird," he said, with this dumb little chuckle behind it. "That's not an answer," I said. "You want to act like I'm the one making this messy? Fine. But Hannah says she's due late January. I remember your office happy hour in April. Alicia picked you up because you couldn't walk a straight line. If that baby is yours, congrats. Prove it. If it's not, you better get your head right before you start hauling in cribs and slapping paint on walls that aren't yours to touch." There was silence. Then I felt Alicia walk behind me. She held out her hand. I gave her the phone without saying a word. "Derek," she said, calm and clear. "I love you. I do. But Mom crossed about 6 lines today, and if you knew or even let her believe that you needed Sadie's room for your kid, that's on you." He didn't reply, just hung up, which said more than anything he could have explained. A few minutes later, Leon came back in through the front door. No Marilyn. He looked like he'd aged a year in the 20 minutes he was outside. He walked over, put his hat back on the banister, and looked at both of us. "Wes," he said, voice steady, "I'm sorry." I believed him. You can tell when a man means it. He looked me in the eye, didn't stammer, didn't add fluff or conditions. Just a clean apology from someone who wasn't trying to save face, just to tell the truth. I nodded. Appreciate that. I walked into the kitchen, opened the utility drawer, pulled out my drill, and headed for the front door. "What are you doing?" Alicia asked. "Changing the locks," I said. "All of them." And I did. Deadbolt, handle, side gate padlock, garage side door. 3 sets in total. I tossed the old keys in the bottom of the trash can and wrote new labels for the spares. Only 2 names. Me, Alicia. When I walked back in, Leon was still standing there, watching quietly. He looked at the new keys, then at me, and nodded like he understood the message. He didn't ask for a copy. He didn't need to. Alicia picked up her phone, pulled up the camera clip, and dropped it in the extended family group thread. No commentary. Just the 14-minute clip, uncut. The video of Marilyn giving orders, the boxes labeled like junk mail, and the part where she said, "Real grandchild." Then Alicia added one line. "This is why we're done with drop-ins." After she hit send, she walked out onto the porch and made the hardest call I think she's ever made. I stood in the hallway, heard her voice through the screen door. "Mom," she said, "you are not welcome here. Not for coffee, not for Thanksgiving, not to check in or bring something by, not until we say otherwise. This is our home, not yours. You made that clear today." She hung up before whatever excuse Marilyn gave had the chance to twist the knife again. When she came back in, she didn't cry. She didn't vent. She just looked at me and said, "Thank you for holding the line when I couldn't." We didn't need more than that. We finished putting the room back the way Sadie left it. Books, markers, stickers. And when we finished, Alicia turned off the overhead light and left the night light on. Same way we always did, just in case Sadie was scared. By late afternoon, I got the email from the moving company. Invoice reversed. Balance 0. Attached was a short apology note from dispatch and confirmation the job had been flagged internally. I forwarded the email straight to Marilyn. Subject line, "Don't use my business account again." Attached. A still image from the porch cam. Time-stamped. Her in full boss mode with one hand on her hip and the other pointing at the truck. No message in the body. I figured she'd fill in the blanks with whatever excuses made her feel better. Then I sat down at my desk, pulled up the Sheriff's Department website, and filed a police report online for the unauthorized entry and attempted disposal of personal property. I didn't expect them to show up with cuffs or kick down her door, but I wanted the case number, just in case she ever tried it again. A paper trail beats a text fight any day. Next, I opened the file drawer and pulled out a blank manila folder, labeled it Cartwright in all caps, black marker, no frills. Printed 2 copies of the trespass notice I drafted last year after her first pop-in argument but never sent. Until now. 1 copy went in the folder. The other went in the kitchen junk drawer with the batteries, duct tape, and the flashlight we always lose then find. That night, around 7, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, this is Art. I was the taller guy on the crew today. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. Foreman saw the footage. Took us off the job. That wasn't right." I stared at the message for a second, then typed back, "You were respectful when it mattered. No hard feelings." Then I sent him a tip. Venmo, $75, with the note, "For reversing with care." He hearted it. Didn't say anything else. Didn't need to. By 8:30, Alicia and I were finally in the kitchen, standing by the island, eating leftover pizza straight from the box. She leaned her hip on the counter. I leaned on the fridge. Neither of us had sat down since before noon. I chewed 1 bite too long before I finally said it. "I'm tired of feeling like a renter in my own life whenever your mom walks into this house." Alicia nodded, eyes down on her plate. "Me too," she said. Then she looked up and added, "I'm scared I didn't stand up soon enough." "You stood up today," I said, "and that's the day that counts." She let out a quiet breath through her nose, the kind that says you're not fixed, but at least the bleeding stopped. Just after 9, we heard a knock at the door. 2 taps, no doorbell. I knew it was Leon. He always knocks like he's giving the house a chance to say no. He had a cardboard box in his arms, small but worn on the corners. I knew it before I even took it from him. Sadie's Polaroids, county fair, the lake, the backyard birthday with the melting cupcakes. "Marilyn grabbed it when you weren't looking," Leon said. "I told her to put it back. She didn't. I took it after I walked her to the car." "Thank you," I said. He nodded once. Then he looked over at Alicia. "That boy of mine is a fool. If Hannah really is pregnant, he needs to get his head straight before he makes another mess." Alicia didn't say anything, but she stepped forward and gave her dad a hug. Short, but solid. Leon pulled back and looked at both of us. "I'll be at your house for the holidays, if you'll have me." "Don't worry about how that looks. I know what I married." "Doesn't mean I have to support it." We told him he was welcome any time, and he nodded again. Like that settled it. A little before 10, I was rinsing off a plate when my phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. Message said, "This is Hannah. Can we talk?" I turned to Alicia and held the screen out. She looked at it for a second, then nodded. "You want to handle this tomorrow?" "Yeah," I said. Tomorrow. Because today had been more than enough. Morning came with that kind of pale, washed-out sky that makes everything look faded. Houses, trees, even your own face in the mirror. I stared at the screen for a second, then hit call on Hannah's number, while Alicia brewed coffee behind me. She answered on the first ring. Her voice was raw, scratchy like she'd either been crying or hadn't slept. Or both. "Hey," she said, too soft. "Thanks for calling." I didn't waste time. "I need to know how this started." She was quiet for a second, then let it out all at once. "Marilyn's been texting me since June." I barely knew her, but she was real persistent. Said she just wanted to help bring the family back together. Said the baby should carry Derek's name, that it would help everybody heal. She kept repeating that, help everybody heal. I'd heard lines like that before, in eulogies, in cover stories. In scripts, people rehearse to make their own actions feel righteous. When did you meet Derek? I asked. Late March, she said. Brewery trivia night in Raleigh. My friend bailed, so I ended up playing solo, and he joined my table. We went out a couple times, but it wasn't serious. We weren't exclusive. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. The math had already run through my head 24 times and came back red every time. Then she said it straight. I don't think the baby's his. I mean, it could be, but... She let that trail. I told Marilyn that. She said it didn't matter. She said if I just kept the story simple, she'd help cover rent for the first year. And I set the phone on the counter, hard, had to step back. My hands wanted to curl into something I'd regret. Alicia walked over, picked it up, and said, Hannah, listen. We're not here to blow up your life. We're just trying to stop a bulldozer. If you need help telling the truth, we'll support that. But you have to tell him I know, Hannah said. I want to. I was going to wait for the test, but I'll do it. Today. Before it becomes something I can't undo. Good, Alicia said. Do it your way. But soon, when she hung up, I typed out the text to Derek. Talk to Hannah today. Don't let Mom steer you. Also tell Mom she's not welcome here. Police report filed. Trespass notice ready. Then I went outside, pulled the new padlock from the workbench, and swapped it onto the side gate. No one needed to get in that way but me and Alicia. Marilyn texted 5 minutes later from a number I didn't recognize. She loves a burner phone like it's a hobby. We need to have a civil talk. I replied with the case number and nothing else. By late afternoon, my phone rang. Derek. His voice was flat, hollow. She says it's not mine. Says she's sorry. Says she'll handle it. I waited a second, but he didn't say anything else. You all right? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. He exhaled. You were right, he said, then hung up. It felt like a win, but it also felt like a funeral. I put my phone on the table and walked back to Sadie's room. Alicia was sitting on the edge of the bed, fingers curled around Chestnut's stubby little paw, rubbing that one ear Sadie used to chew on when she was nervous. She says it's not his, I told her. Alicia didn't move. Then Mom did all this for nothing, she said quietly. I sat down next to her. No, I said. She did it because she couldn't stand not being in charge. Doesn't matter if the story was true or not. What mattered to her was being the one who shaped it. Alicia nodded, eyes still on the floor. She always has to be the center of someone's solution, even if she causes the problem first. The room stayed quiet for a long time. Nothing dramatic, no tears, just silence that finally felt like ours again. I spent the next morning doing what I should have done months ago. I printed out the photos. Marilyn on the porch, the give and dump boxes, the invoice reversal. Then I clipped them behind a one-page letter that said, in plain type, "Do not enter my home or use my accounts. Any future violation will go to court." I mailed it certified, signed return receipt. The thread exploded. Aunts and cousins dropped the little shocked face emoji. A couple added hearts, probably to keep the peace. But 2 of them texted me privately. We didn't know. Of course they didn't. That's how it always goes with people like Marilyn. They never swing their full weight in public. I filed a small claims petition online. Didn't need the money. But I wanted a docket number with her name on it in case she ever tried this again. Claimed $217 for hardware, $90 for one lost billable hour, and tacked on a photo of the old lock set with a timestamp. It was never about winning the case. It was about setting a legal trail deeper than a family group chat. Then I called the daycare director. Marilyn had somehow gotten herself listed as an emergency pickup contact for my niece, Alicia's sister's daughter, who we babysit sometimes. I told the director, calmly but clear, that only Alicia or I had authority over anything tied to our home. No more pickups, no more drop-ins, no exceptions. She's been by 3 times this month, the director said. Always said it was just to help. Help's not what she's doing, I said. Put it in bold on our file. She did. Leon called that evening. Said he was staying at his brother's for a couple weeks. Said the house was too loud. Then he added, for what it's worth, I told her if she keeps this up, she'll be eating Thanksgiving alone. That hit harder than it should have. Quiet men don't throw punches. But when they do, they land. Work picked up, almost like the universe wanted to shift the focus. I had a church retrofit with a tight timeline, 2 residential panel swaps in Cary, and a corner store that needed parking lot lights rewired after some DIY genius fried half their system. I took every job, not just for the money, though the money helped, but because pulling wire and flipping breakers does something good in my head. It makes sense, clean lines, clear current, no manipulation. I took that clarity and used it for something that actually mattered. Booked a bench at the park where Sadie used to feed the ducks. Big stone thing with an engraved plate. Cost me $2,500. Paid in full from a Sunday job I didn't need but took anyway. The plate said, "In loving memory of Sadie, a place to sit and breathe." It faced the pond where she once named every goose. On Tuesday night, Marilyn texted me again. Different number. No surprise. I'm sorry if my timing was off. That's the kind of apology that makes you want to throw your phone into a wall. I typed back, "Return the spare key you copied." She didn't answer. 2 days later, a plain white envelope showed up in the mailbox. No note inside, just a key. I dropped it in the Cartwright folder with the rest. I'm 56 now, telling you about when I was 36 and half broken. And if you've ever stood in a doorway and watched strangers carry out your kid's bed, you know the taste that puts in your mouth. I can still find it if I think too hard. It's like metal and dust and shame you didn't see it coming. We kept Sadie's room the way she left it. Not sealed up like a museum, not frozen in time, just a space that made sense. Her space. Sometimes Alicia and I sat in there without talking. Sometimes we talked too much. But we always left the nightlight on, even when we weren't staying long. Thanksgiving came without drama for the first time in years. Marilyn didn't come, and no one asked why. Leon showed up with a pecan pie from that bakery on Willow that Sadie used to call the sugar place. We ate late at the kitchen island, just the 3 of us, and FaceTimed my sister because she always insists, even when the signal's bad. We got through it without crying into the green beans, which felt like a win. Derek and Hannah didn't make it. He sent me a text afterward, a photo of a lab slip with the kind of red lettering that doesn't leave room for denial. Not the father. All I wrote back was, "Take care of yourself, because he's still Alicia's brother, and stupid doesn't erase blood." Marilyn tried her usual December tricks. She left an expensive wreath at the door like that was supposed to mean something. Then a card, full of pretty sentences about moving forward and bridges. Alicia packed it all in one padded envelope, taped it shut, and mailed it back with a fresh copy of the trespass notice taped right on top. That was the last we heard from her until the new year. On January 28th, Alicia and I drove out to the park and sat on the stone bench we had installed. Her name, Sadie's name, was carved into the plate. A place to sit and breathe. A little kid in a red coat kicked at the gravel nearby, made that squeaky laugh kids make when they're not trying to be funny, and we both smiled without forcing it. That part was new. My business has a gate now. Full swing arm, keypad, the works. Cameras on the corners, cables and conduit, and backup storage for footage. At home, we keep just 2 keys in the jar by the coffee maker. One for me, one for Alicia. I don't apologize for the locks or the lines anymore. I'm not rude about it, but I don't move the boundaries just because someone else gets twitchy. You don't leave the door cracked open for people who've already barged in. And if you want a little twist, you can tell over coffee. Here's one. A few months later, Marilyn left me a voicemail. Said she wanted to talk about legacy, like she was calling from a church board, not the mess she made. I saved the message. Never called her back. Instead, Alicia and I went to the county library and set up a reading corner in Sadie's name. Soft rug, beanbag chairs, little bookshelf shaped like a butterfly. We donated 32 picture books. I counted them twice. When the plaque went up, I took a photo and texted it to Marilyn with no words. Just the image. Maybe she shows it to her friends and pretends she helped. Maybe she doesn't. I don't really care, as long as she stays away from my doors and my accounts. I didn't win a medal for any of this. No applause. No "you were right" banners in the sky. But I did the thing that mattered. I took my house back. I kept my daughter's space honest. And the people who thought they could steamroll us, they learned. If they lost sleep over it later, good. They should have kept their hands off the butterflies. Where would you draw the line with family after this? Share in the comments, and please like and subscribe. It's huge for us. Just one click.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.